And that's what we've seen over and over, is when people put their own money or their own hands into a project, it gives them dignity and it gives them that ownership in something. So we began, you can go to the next slide. I can't even remember what my next slides are. Yeah, so we began a small little company, I guess. Just last year, we named it Piranda. And Piranda is a Romanian word that you don't hear used very often in Romania. It actually gives the connotation of a beautiful gypsy girl. Now in Romania, there's a lot of racism. There's just a lot of segregation between the Roma people, who are darker skinned, who actually were, from what we can figure out, were from the untouchables of India, who were tired of being slaves, or maybe they were even thrown out, and then they just kind of migrated around, and a lot of them ended up in Romania, because during the, when Hitler was on his rampage of wiping out the Jews, the second highest number of people that were killed were the Roma. And the estimates are between 3 and 5 million people were killed. And so these are people that have been, through their entire history, the untouchables, the unlovables, the outcast, and it's still that way in a lot of places, in most places today in Romania. So what we want to do is share the gospel with them. The 1% is reached with the gospel. So we do church planting, we do Bible studies. We actually, when we first moved to Romania, we started right outside a city called Oradea, which is about 250,000 people, right over the Hungarian border. And as we were living there, we began, as I said, working in some of the villages, and we ended up moving to a village. So we live right in the middle of Romanian and Roma people right now. And most of the people, I would say 98% of the people in our village do not have running water, don't have indoor plumbing. Most of them live in some kind of a mud 2-room, 1 or 2-room house. So that's where God has led us, and that's where we live. And so we pour our lives right now into this village. And over the last years, we have seen God do amazing things. And that's why I said, you know what, discipleship is so different, and evangelism for us over there. But this is actually Gabby. This is her house on the left. This is what it looked like when we met her. She has a husband and 2 children. And for a Roma person, it's very, very difficult to get a job. It's difficult for them because, one, they don't have education. Most of them, they had segregated schools, but the Roma were not really invested in. So a lot of times they just quit going to school and they would go work out in the fields or whatever they could to make some money to support their family. So a lot of them don't have education. And then because of the racism, we have a social worker, and she took out 50 resumes trying to get these people jobs. And she called on the phone and they said, yeah, we have jobs. And she brought the resumes down, and when they started seeing their names, she said, are they gypsy? And she said, yes. And he said, sorry, we're not hiring. And so it's really hard for them to overcome these things. So we understand that it takes time. It takes time for things to change, but we see them changing, and God is changing lives. So this was her house, as I said, and this is her sitting in her new home that was over a year ago, and this is her on the front cover. And she's just one. This is Gabby now. And if you look on the inside, this is her sitting at a sewing machine. And because of what we've been able to do, what God has done through Piranda, she now has a full-time job with benefits, with insurance, and with pension and everything. And most importantly, we're able to share the gospel with her and all the people of the village. And we've seen her life change, and so many others change. And this is our hope and our prayer. We didn't go to Romania. Like I said, we didn't even know what we were going to do there. We were just going to hold babies and hopefully, make a difference. And then going into villages and seeing the problems and seeing just the poverty and praying for the answer. And not that we have the answers, because we don't. What we do because it's Christ. But we don't have the solution for everybody. But in our little pinpoint of Romania, God is doing amazing things. And so we have this company, as I said, it's called Piranda. And we started out making paper bracelets. Actually, Lindsay's wearing one. And we started with paper, and then we went on to doing some strings, and then we went on to making some different jewelry, a little bit more technical. And then we started with some shoes. We designed them and we sent them out to be made with another company. Came back to America and went on a shoe sales tour of the United States. For 3 weeks, we spoke at every place we could, whether it was a living room or a gym or a church or whatever. Do you ever see that 2 guys in a truck? Yeah? Well, it was me and Helena, and it was 2 girls in a U-Haul, and we were carrying shoes all over the country. And what money we made from that, we invested it and we bought our first sewing machines. And now we have about, 8 sewing machines. And these kimonos, we call them Ramonos because we're Romanian. So we've learned how to do these, and then we've gone to purses and book bags, and it's amazing. Like, it's not because, a lot of times you see people in poverty, and I don't know if you think this, but a lot of people think, well, they're so lazy. And that's not the case. You know what? It takes a lot to survive in poverty, number one, so they're not lazy. And the other thing is, a lot of times you just have to invest in them. And so that's what we're doing with Piranda, is we're investing in lives of people, of women who would be trafficked or that have been trafficked, and trying to give them a job with dignity, hope, and faith. And that's what Piranda is about. On the back